Alright, we're back on gaming. I want to say this right now before we get started. You are going to see, it's almost going to feel like a rerun of last week because, you know, you're going to see developers acting a fool, media acting a fool, gamers acting a fool, and once again, our community is at a standstill. Goes nowhere, as usual. And this is, I don't understand this, alright? However, I will say this before I get started on all that, I want to talk about the requests I've been getting over the weekend. Now, over the weekend, for those who don't know, a lot of requests about talking about Joystiq again. Now, I will put it like this. I'm not going to spend too much time on Joystiq because, like I've said before, I don't care about Joystiq after that article they wrote, you know, that they greenlit, that was put out there, you know, the Gaming While Black. However, I will say this, for those who didn't know, when Joystiq was falling under, and we saw that happening on Twitter, all their managers and writers and things of that nature, they were compiling a list of all the LinkedIns of their employees so that they can find them jobs before anything happened. So they were looking out for their friends. However, for those who don't know, Engadget has taken on Joystiq. That's right. So now it's Engadget x Joystiq. I'll put it like this. Engadget, this will be the last time I will ever link any of your articles in my videos. So, people, understand this. I'm putting this article, not even an archive version. Not even, alright? This article highlights about how bringing them into the fold. And who do you think that they highlight in the article? Anyone? Jessica Condit. That's right, the same person who wrote that Gaming While Black article. They went and did that. So this goes to tell me, I understand that AOL consolidated these sites, so they really didn't have, much of a choice. But when you're highlighting people who clearly did something racist, and a lot of people say this, because for those who don't know, when she did that article, she ignored, apparently on Twitter, Oliver Campbell came out and said, a lot of people came out and said she ignored black gamers when she was writing this article. That's right. So, it goes to show you that she really doesn't give a damn. Alright? I just want to get that off the chest. Now, I do want to move on because, like I said, Engadget, like I said, I'll put the link in the info bar. That is it. As far as I'm concerned, and if you read the article in full, it really sounds like it's going to be a SJW-esque site. It does, if you read the article in full. Like I said, I'll put the article in the info bar, and I'm going to move on, okay? I want to talk about Towerfall. I'm sure you already saw, the headline, the little headline, the header for this video saying Boycotting Towerfall. Yes, I am boycotting Towerfall. And for those who don't know why, this is the reason why I'm boycotting Towerfall. That's right. Anita Sarkeesian is now going to be in Towerfall. Now look, we all had a big problem with her working on the project with, with Mirror's Edge. And now we're hearing that she may be working on the next Battlefield. Look, I don't understand what's going on, and we've talked about this with EA. EA said, we don't have anything to do with it, and we said, you have to be more clear about this, and EA hasn't yet. However, now we're seeing that Towerfall is putting her in. Now, for those who've never played Towerfall, I've had the chance to play Towerfall. It's a fun game. It is. But now that you're going to do this, it's absolutely ridiculous. And I want to say this now because PC Gamer, which is another site that will never, this will be the last time, that will never be part of this video, or any of my videos, all right, any of their links. They go on to talk about how her death threats, how they were legit and things of that nature. I'm thinking to myself, so we're supposed to forget the fact that she said that she had death threats and she ran from her house, but never called the police? Are we supposed to forget that? We never saw a police report. We even saw YouTubers call the very same police department that she said, that she, that she swore that she called to make a report. And that police department said, there's no reports made. So all of a sudden, we're supposed to believe that. Now here's the thing. I've seen a number of articles on this from other sites. And the people from Towerfall, the developer has said, well, she's very influential. Really, she's influential. She's done so much. What has she done? What has Anita Sarkeesian done other than lie about things? Huh? What has she done that's been so influential? You don't see her outside, fighting for women's rights. You don't see her going to marches and carrying on. You don't see her fighting for those women over in the Middle East who are getting beheaded just for wanting women's rights. No, you don't see that. No. Don't give me this. So as far as I'm concerned, what has she done other than get on camera and lie about things? Nothing. Oh, I'm sorry, and use her telemarketing, her teleseminar skills, because I forgot. She does, she learned from that. That's all she's done. There is nothing influential about her. And you gotta be kidding me that all of a sudden, because the media is pushing this up as some type of poster girl, that we're supposed to just bow down to this. And the thing is, when this is happening, gamers are very upset. Like I said, I'm just going to stay away from the game altogether. I'm not telling you to boycott it. I'm telling you, I'm boycotting it for this reason. Because when you support a person who uses hate to get to this industry, to escalate herself up to some type of higher echelon, uses hate, uses segregation, uses racism, uses all these type of tragedies to push her platform, there is no way in hell you can say that's influential. It goes against everything that the gaming community is about. And it also goes against everything that she and all of her other people say that they're against. You can't sit here and say, oh, we want things to be equal and fair, and then you ignore a number of people in the community because they don't fit your narrative. No, it doesn't work that way. But the fact is, you're going to sit here and say she's influential. Show me a sliver of any type of, how can I say this? Any type of effort that, on her own, because as we know, McIntosh does everything for her. We know that everything's written, she's reading it off of some type of, teleprompter or whatever. We know this. But the fact is, every time somebody tries to debate her, whether it be Miss Summers or whatever, what does she do? She folds. Oh, what? Miss Summers, she called me out. Let's make an auto-tune song in response. For a person who says that they're very serious about this equality thing, you sure as hell take the most immature steps to combat people who criticize you. But you don't want to talk about that, right? So when gamers got upset about this, we saw a number of gamers go to PC Gamer on their site and say, no, this isn't Anita Sarkeesian's fault. This is the media's fault. They blame the media. That's right. So they're saying that it's them who's keeping her in the spotlight. It's them who keeps talking about this. And when we saw that, what happened? We saw PC gamers start deleting comments left and right on their website. That's right, in that article. Then we saw gamers go over to Towerfall and over on Steam and voice their concerns about this. And what happened? Those comments were deleted. So everyone's playing this side. So, it's amazing how they say they don't want censorship, but as soon as somebody says anything against her, they cut them off completely. It's pathetic. And I'll put it like this. For everyone who is seeing this happen, you got to look at it in almost like a what if. And I put it like this. Because this is the reality of what if Jack Thompson would have succeeded. That's what this is. Like I said, she doesn't have any ground to stand on when it comes to her arguments. And I know some people are going to say, well, she does make a couple of points, which she possibly could. But once you've been caught in a mountain of lies, why would anyone, and I say this with people with common sense, when someone lies to you, why would you believe them afterwards? Other than wanting to believe. But there's more. Because a lot of people say, let's connect the dots, let's see what Towerfall really has to do with Anita Sarkeesian, and then we end up bumping into this. Once again, the IGF at work, I have to say this right now, alright? For those who don't know what's going on also with Phil Fish, a lot of people are jumping on him. We've seen, as of late, Tech Raptor come out with these articles about Phil Fish stealing work for feds. And now he's under fire. And of course, you're going to have all these other sites try and back Phil Fish. Yeah, because they're friends with Phil Fish. This is absolutely ridiculous, what we've seen in the previous week. But that's not all. I told you I would get to the segregation and the racism and things of that nature. These are the people who believe in Anita Sarkeesian. These are the people. This is the company that she keeps. And these are the people, what I'm telling you about gamers, your gaming community, I'm telling you, this is what they're trying to push on you. So let's start with the segregation. What type of business openly admits to segregation? Apparently, if you want to work there, you can't be white or male. You've got to be kidding me, right? That is absolutely ridiculous. It's a bad business ethic, and you should know by now that you actually push people away. So you're not going to hire people based off the quality of their resume. You're hiring people based off of color and gender. You've got to be kidding me. That is absolutely ridiculous, but that's not all. No. Now let's show the racism. Let's start with one, McIntosh himself. During Black History Month, huh? Not only is it racist, but it's also ignorant. So, McIntosh, I'd like to say this. Don't act like you know what's going on in American school systems, alright? Or in American history books, because you have no idea. See, this is the problem when you sit back in your little couch and think that if I just say this, it will be enough. Or if I troll and try to light a fire under somebody, they'll prove me right. No, let's get something straight here, alright? When you want to talk about this letter, understand. You say, oh, they were just too busy playing video games when this was introduced. First off, you're just going to piss all over kids, huh? You're just going to do that. That's number one. Number two, I'll put it like this. That letter in American history class, we never had. Even up in college, we never had that. They never spoke about those type of things. That's right. We had to go, as black people, we had to go out and find these things on ourselves, especially when it came to other black history. Like black cowboys, guess what? Had to go out and find that myself, because they didn't cover that in school. So before you think you know what's going on in the American school system, and for those who don't know, there are videos of this put up about what goes into the American school systems, and actually who is in charge of these things. You can find these all over YouTube. But this guy's going to act like he knows what the hell he's talking about. The fact is, he's ignorant. And he already admitted once that, oh, I just do this just for trolling. Well, if you're doing this just for trolling and saying this just for laughs because now you're in business with bigger companies and you still have it going, no, you're lying. Because before you said it was serious, then you said it was trolling. Now you're back to this. Make up your mind. All you're doing is flip-flopping. And once again, you can't trust the person who flip-flops. But that's not all. Let's show you more. Because apparently, rich white people are going to tell us minorities. That's right. They're going to tell us minorities what we should choose and who we should support during this Gamergate thing. Like I've said before, Gamergaters, you don't have to do anything. You don't have to say anything towards them. Just let them talk. Because all they do is expose themselves and bury themselves. And you've seen in a number of months exactly who is on your side, how people are acting. You cannot tell me that websites can say that gamers are dead and call you name after name after name and think that you would still, and it's not just websites, it's also developers, it's everybody who's against this. You can't sit here and insult people and then turn around and say, you should buy our product. And for those who know what I'm talking about, Brianna Wu, let's get into this right now. Rev 60, we've seen this not too long ago, where Revolution 60 was trying to get greenlit over on Steam, and it was getting downvoted. And this is what Brianna Wu had to say about the downvote, because, you know, she loves to play the professional victim. Welcome to reality. If you want people to buy your game, don't insult them. How about that? But still, you want to try and play this. Look, let's get something straight here. I love this tweet, and I'm going to explain. I'm going to break this down. First off, Brianna Wu, you are not a slave, because you talk about how you slaved over this. You didn't slave over anything. No one held you against your will when you were making the game, okay? You did that because you wanted to do it. There's a difference. At least know your words if you're going to use them in the context, okay? You didn't slave over it. Just like when people say they slaved over this meal in the kitchen. No, you chose to do it. No one's holding you hostage to say you have to make this or else. You chose to do it on your own, okay? So don't blame anyone but yourself when it comes to that. Then you say people who are downvoting the game that you worked so hard at, obviously they hate women. So here's a question, Miss Wu. What about the women who downvoted your game? I guess you're going to say they hate themselves too? Is that what you're going to say? Because it seems like you have an excuse for everything. It does. But that's not all, people. No. Then Brianna Wu, and I want you to understand this. This is how far her crazy goes, all right? She ended up getting caught when she harassed herself. That's right. She harassed herself in her own thread about the game. And if you need more proof on that, I will put the full story, the link, in the info bar where Brianna Wu got caught by a Steam mod. And caught this, right? And then questioned her on it. So what did she try to do afterwards? She tried to bribe the person. And the person wasn't having that either. It goes to show you this is what they need to do to sell. It's sad. I'm going to bring this up even more. But that's not all. Let's just say, we'll give her the benefit of the doubt and talk about how, people are going after her game because they don't like her. And it's unfair. And this is Gamergate's fault, right? Really? So when anti-Gamergate did it, you didn't have a problem then, right? So it's okay for the side that you're aligned with to do it in the past, but as soon as someone strikes back, because every action has a reaction, then all of a sudden you want to say, these people are monsters, they're ruining lives, blah, blah, blah. Is that really where you want to go? Do you see how full of shit this is? And it goes to show you how immature it is as well. Because these are the same people who are quick to tell you just how much better they are than you. how more mature they are than you, and then they never prove it, do they? It's absolutely ridiculous. And I'll put it like this, okay? Because nobody, I feel, should be downvoting, games simply because you don't like a person. However, I will say that you have the right to not support a game because of the way that person is acting. Because you're holding them accountable. That's what it comes down to. If you're going to insult consumers, then guess what? You don't deserve for your game to sell. You don't. And the fact that you use your husband and you use other people of the media to try and push your game, to try and get it upvoted, is absolutely ridiculous. And we've seen this on their Facebook pages. This is something that is just, it's gone beyond what it needs to. It's absolutely sad that this is what, oh my God. But that's not all. No, it's not all. Because, they love to talk about equality and helping women. We should know by now, it's not about helping women. It's helping women who are on their side. Because Jennifer Dahl is pro-Gamergate, and you had no problem with your side that you're aligned with trashing her. And making sure to downvote her and make sure her game doesn't succeed. Simply because of who she's aligned with. Do you understand that? Not because she's insulted consumers, not because she's calling you a bunch of names. No, simply because of the side that she chose to be on. If this is about equality for women, then it doesn't matter what side a woman should be on, right? But no, it does matter. And that's the sad part about what you're doing. That's not all. That's not all. We're going to show you more slimy shit when it comes to developers. Because Valve tells developers to stop giving away game keys in exchange for greenlight votes. What does this tell you? Like I said, this is what they have to do in order to succeed these days. If this was the 90s or even mid-2000s, these people that you're seeing would not be around whatsoever. They wouldn't be able to survive due to the fact that they cannot make it off of their hard work. It always has to be a narrative now. I'm a victim. I was harassed. Give me money. You've got to be kidding me. Now you want to say that you have to give them, game keys so that they upvote you. Do you see what's going on here? And the thing is, gamers are taking the keys and upvoting. So our community, once again, is having this problem where we can't control. I understand you cannot control everyone in the community. But you have to be kidding me that you keep falling for this bait. It's absolutely ridiculous, man. And this is not what our community is. This is not what it's about. But I will say this real quick, alright? Because for those who don't know, Eurogamer has dropped review scores. So, once again, this is going well. Now, I will say this, alright? EA. I don't know if y'all can hear that back there. They're doing some type of construction. I don't know. EA. Let's start with EA and their bullshit. Let's start. Alright? EA. Hilleman says that our games are too hard to learn. Too hard to learn. That's what EA is saying. Look, EA, stop. If you're saying right now that your games are too hard to learn, then there is a problem. And you have to understand, I'm speaking up a little bit because I don't know if y'all can hear it, but I can hear that construction, okay? But you have to understand, EA, there is nothing wrong with your games when it comes to too hard to learn, the learning curve. No, the learning curve is very easy, especially if you've been playing games for a very long time. A lot of these people love to talk about how they're hardcore gamers, and then you come out and say something like that. No, when you're saying that your games are too hard, do you know what that means? That means in the future, they're going to simplify it even more than what it already is. And you should know by now, gamers are already complaining that it's too easy as it is, that it's too much hand-holding, and yet you go and say something like this. EA, I think you need to get the right people to do the right things at your company. And I've said this time and time again. I've given you examples, and once again, EA doesn't want to learn because they think that they just keep sticking with this, that it's going to work. And you want to be that way, EA? Fine. The last time you tried to stick with something that it didn't work was what? The online pass. And then you try to turn around and say, oh, well, it was a stupid idea. Well, we tried to tell you that from the beginning, but you didn't want to listen. And when you did it, then other companies went and followed, didn't they? Exactly. Let's move on. More EA. Layoffs at EA, Montreal, EA, but EA Montreal and Bioware are unaffected. This is mostly from their mobile sector, okay? So they're having layoffs. Look, EA, if you are such this great company, and it seems like all these companies do the same thing. We've talked about this before when we see layoffs where all these people that are at the bottom get laid off. However, your CEOs and all your big fat cats get paid even more. It's ridiculous. The fact that you're laying people off and it's just like, that's business. No, it's nothing personal. No, it is personal because now people have lost their jobs. People have lost, and not because they've done something wrong, but the fact is they lost their jobs and now they don't know where the next meal is coming from. And you're going to sit here and say, it's nothing but business. But however, EA, Montreal, and Bioware are unaffected because, as we know, they're the bigger groups. We know that. Now, I will put it like this. Bioware and EA has canceled an experimental 4 vs 1 RPG Shadow Realms. You notice we're seeing this a lot as of late, this 4 vs 1, and you know what? It's been done before, but ever since this hype for Evolve, and we will talk about that later, we have seen so much when it comes to 4 vs 1. Now everyone wants to make it a trend. And the thing is, a lot of us have always complained about there not being enough co-op and not enough multiplayer. The only thing you kept giving us multiplayer-wise was adversarial. Now you're starting to listen, but it's a little too late for that. Because we're seeing so many games come out the woodwork that are going to run with this to see if it can work. I want to talk more about games of that nature. Like I said, I'm going to talk more in a minute about that, alright? I want to move on to Capcom. Alright? Capcom! Listen, Resident Evil HD breaks sales records. So you know what that means. Since that broke sales records, you know they're going to be coming with more. Just to let you know that. Also in Capcom news, Resident Evil Triple Pack has been announced for the PS3 in Japan. But it actually contains 4 games. That's right, I'll put the link in the info bar for that. Also, Capcom Online Games has at least 10 announced titles. That's right, that are still in development. Capcom, seriously, if those titles have to do with just Resident Evil and Street Fighter, don't even bother. Don't bother. Alright? But we'll see what happens down the line. Like I said, just not too long ago, owner was like, oh, we have so many surprises. What I say? Not even interested. Not interested. Unless Capcom starts showing, instead of saying 10 unannounced, games, man, you gotta bring some big guns to the table. Either you bring back some old IPs or you make some new IPs. And I mean old. I don't mean stuff that you've been rehashing for the previous generation. I'm talking about stuff we haven't seen for a very long time, like Onimusha. Stuff like that. And unless you do that, no one's going to care. At least I don't think they are. I mean, as we know, a lot of people are hooked on Resident Evil and Street Fighter, but that's not all you have. They still tend to forget that Capcom, especially back in the 90s, had a huge list of franchises that were successful. And for people to only settle for what? 5 maybe? That's ridiculous. That's absolutely... That goes to show you how much effort they're putting in. Anyways, I want to talk about fighting games. For those who don't know, Mortal Kombat X. As we know, game looks great. A lot of people are fun. They're having fun, just getting hyped up for it. Let's talk about this real quick, because I don't want to be a killjoy on this, but this is the news that's been going on, alright? The PS3 version and the Xbox 360 version, High Voltage will be making for Mortal Kombat X, not NetherRealm Studios. Fans have petitioned to get Oderus Urungus in Mortal Kombat X. No, just stop. Alright, look, we've seen enough where we have these novelty characters come out of the woodwork when it comes to Mortal Kombat. Let Mortal Kombat be Mortal Kombat. If you want to make a horror game, put Freddy and Jason and all these people, just make a standalone game for it. And then you can do that type of stuff. You know what I mean? Don't keep putting in characters that really aren't in the Mortal Kombat world. Just let Mortal Kombat be Mortal Kombat, please. Can you do that? Seriously. But that's not all. Mortal Kombat X may feature microtransactions. That's right. This is what IGN is saying right now. It may feature it. I would say, whether this is true or false, the NetherRealms community, if you ask me, they should really get together and they should go and talk to them about that on their forums. Because this is absolutely, it's uncalled for. Microtransactions in a fighting game. It's uncalled for. Microtransactions should be happening anyway, but it's uncalled for. It really is. It's bad enough you're going to DLC the hell out of this game, then Game of the Year edition this game, or as in Injustice, Complete Edition, Ultimate Edition, whatever. NetherRealms does this time and time again. And to see all the things that, their complete editions, like their pre-order, the one collection, the MKX collection was like $179 or something like that. Like, come on, man. You don't need that. You don't. I understand that there's collectors out there, but you got to be kidding me that you're going to pay top dollar for a fighting game. And we've said this before. Fighting games shouldn't even be $60 at this point, especially when you're hitting them with DLC left and right. Okay? Full product for the game, full price for the game, and then you hit them with all this DLC coming down the line. I want to talk about that a little bit. For those who don't know, more fighting game news. Bandai Namco to announce new characters for Tekken 7, okay? Also, Bandai Namco's Rise of the Incarnates is now available free via Steam Early Access. But I want to talk about this I'm getting ready to talk about, alright? Dragon Ball Xenoverse. For those who don't know, the Season Pass, that's right, the Season Pass for DLC has popped up on Steam. And this is what I'm talking about. This is exactly what I'm talking about. There's no reason for this. Drop the prices of the game, the initial prices, if you're going to do something like this. It's absolutely ridiculous. I've seen a number of complaints, especially from last week, when it comes to Dragon Ball, and a lot of people are mad at the fact that, how they're going to try and DLC you. It's just uncalled for. Also, in more news, I want to talk about this. Persona 5. One of you guys had sent me a message and asked, there's a petition going around that Persona 5, as we know, it's coming to the PS4 and the PS3, but PC gamers want Persona 5 as well. So they made a petition. I believe there's like 1,000 signatures or something already for it. So I'll put the petition in the info bar if you were interested in Persona 5 coming to the PC. Also, Dark Souls 2 PS4 is 1080 and 60 frames per second. I don't see why it shouldn't have been. That should be the standard, right? If this is next generation, if you're going to push all this stuff, it should be 1080, 60 frames per second, right? Come on. If you get your money's worth if that's the case. But Dark Souls 2 seems to be doing that. Now I want to talk about Evolve. I want to talk about this, all right? For those who don't know, Evolve DLC, or microtransactions, any way you want to call it, there is a list of what's going on. Remember, they said the DLC isn't meant to milk you. Really? Well, let's look at that list right now. Now, for those who cannot see that image, wide enough on screen, what I will do is I will put that image in the info bar so you can click on the link and see it in detail, exactly what they're trying to get you with. And I want somebody to tell me that it's okay for what they're doing. But that's not all. No, more Evolve news. An Evolve developer was caught damage controlling overpriced DLC by posing as a pro-transaction consumer. That's right. I will put the link in the info bar for this. Like I said, this is what you have to do to sell. This. You have to sit and damage control. You have to sit and get people and bribe people. And you've got to be kidding me that developers are going out of their way now to pose as somebody to say, hey, this is okay and you should be okay with it too. We've seen this from companies in the past where they would pay off trolls to jump on people who criticize their product. You have to understand that the company tactics these days that we are seeing is absolutely ridiculous. And the fact that people are just going to let this fly under the radar and be like, it's not that big of a deal, I just want to play the game. No! No, do you see this? These are the steps they have to take to make sure that you buy the game. Not to mention, all right, because you want to talk about, because I see a lot of articles saying, well, they need to make money. First off, that's the oldest excuse in the book, okay? But when you are seeing Evolve, and I'll put it like this, I've seen ads all over TV. I see it when I turn on my cell phone, like when cell phone's on, I'm on Twitter or whatever, the banner, buy Evolve. All this money that is being put into it, not to mention all the money that's being spent into the media and trying to promote the game, don't tell me you don't have money. Don't tell me this. You do. But yet you're going to overprice DLC and milk the hell out of gamers and then say, we're not doing that to milk gamers. Stop lying. That's simple. You got caught. Like I said, I'll put the link in the info bar so you can see it. Alright? But also, Evolve has a 3 gigabyte day 1 patch to improve load times. So, about that day 1 patch. Yeah. I'm just saying, if you're going to sit here and try to say that this is the second coming, and we saw YouTubers run their mouths for a number of months saying, this is going to be the greatest multiplayer game ever, blah, blah, blah. If you're going to try to hype this up as the second coming, then you should have all your P's and Q's. You have to have it all in order. Don't give me this, all right? It's a joke that, once again, day 1 patch. Day 1 patch. Like I said, these developers would not survive back in the day when it came to console gaming. They just wouldn't. But the fact that they know that they can just keep pushing out garbage and we'll just patch it later, yeah, man. Yeah. We're going to talk about patches in a bit, too, okay? But let's get off the media. Let's get off the developers, okay? I want to talk about gamers and things that they've done wrong this week, okay? Now, a gamer was raided by a SWAT team in front of 60,000 viewers. That's right. Apparently, someone got swatted, and he thought it was funny. And the gamer who got swatted didn't feel it was so funny. And he said it's not because, they were after him, they were coming to check him, but the SWAT team was pointing guns at his little brother and sister and things that someone could have been killed. Somebody could have been killed. And that's the dangerous part of this swatting when you see these type of things going on. Somebody could be seriously hurt. All because possibly you have a grudge against somebody or you think it's fun. I don't know if you think it's fun or not, but it's absolutely ridiculous. You would go that far to get at somebody. That's not right. And the person, just to let you know, the person who did it They got caught, and now they're facing, I believe, a maximum 5 years. They're facing maximum 5 years in prison because of it. It's absolutely ridiculous, but that's not all. No. A journalist, Mike Derry Smith, puts a troll in jail, by using his PlayStation. That's right. It's an article from BBC. I'll put that in the info bar as well. Also, gamers use hashtag #IDARB to dish out abuse and insults. People, you gotta stop this. Now, look, I'll put the link in the info bar. It actually has the tweets that are highlighted by the article on what they mean about abuse and insults. And I don't understand. Now, of course, you can say they're just trolling and they're trolls, but you have, and this is what I mean every time, gamers. When something positive happens, everyone jumps and says, hey, this is us, this represents us. But when something negative happens, you say, that wasn't us, that was an isolated incident, that's that person. This is what I mean. You got to take the bad with the good as well. When you see something like this, it makes gamers in general look bad. And it seems like people still haven't understood that concept yet. So these gamers, they should be ashamed of themselves for doing it. They should be. But like I said, if you want to read the actual hatred of all this, like just how loose people can be on the internet, because they're not going to say this to anyone's face. You know that. I'll put the link in the info, like I said, so you can read that, okay? Also, this is weird, and I want to say this now. A teen cuts off his hand to cure internet addiction. Yeah, he cuts off his hand. Now, look, I've seen a number of articles on this, because the initial article that I wrote was poorly written, and it almost seemed like it was a joke. So what I did was I Googled it, and I started seeing all these other sites were talking about it. The NY Post, USA Today, there was a lot of them. And they all come to the same conclusion that this really happened. The guy told his mom he'd be back. He went to the park, cut his hand off, his left hand off, left the hand in the park, went to the hospital. Went to the hospital on his own after cutting off his hand. And then the hospital found it and reattached it. And they said that he won't have full mobility. But this is something that apparently happens a lot, there. And that they have these, these addiction camps now for gamers over there. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous to see this. And this is all video game related. Like I said, it's for gamers. It's when they don't want them going to internet cafes. Now they're trying to fine parents for letting kids go into internet cafes and play these games. And the article doesn't touch on it enough as much as I've seen reading multiple articles on the issue. So it's just, if this is what you think is, look, cutting off your hand doesn't prove anything. It doesn't. Look, if you're addicted, regardless of what you do, and you should know when it comes to addictions, you're going to hurt not only yourself, but you're going to hurt others as well. And even though you pulled this stunt 9 times out of 10, you're going to go do it again. You're going to go be addicted again anyway. So it does nothing. It doesn't help you. It's grandstanding. It was stupid enough for you to cut off your hand with a kitchen knife. I don't know how sharp that knife was, but that's a hell of a cut. And that's why a lot of people were saying something doesn't seem right about this article. You know what I mean? There's no way he can just be like, oh, I just took a kitchen knife, I'll be back. And some of the articles was like, hey, Mom, I'll be back in a little bit, And then the mom saw that she wasn't home and was like, oh, I'm going to call the police. Who just does that when they say, hey, Mom, leave a note, hey, Mom, I'm going to be right back? No one does. No one just calls the police because their son isn't right back. Like, that doesn't make sense. So, as far as I'm concerned, and this guy's old enough to, he was old enough to know what he was doing. For me, it's there's something really weird about these articles. You know what I mean? That I've read, this morning over this. I just don't get it. But whatever, I guess. I mean, like I said, I'll put the link in the info bar. You can read it yourself. It's just one of the articles that I read. I thought it was a little bit more informative as opposed to the other ones I've read. I've read. You know what I mean? So, also, I want to talk about this. Sony wants you fans. They want to know which old and glorious arcade games you want on the PS4. Hey, Sony, how about this? How about you just say for the PSN? Because if you're just doing it for the PS4 so that it sells more, and you're just going to neglect the PS3, which is pathetic, because I'll put it like this. When you had the PS3, you still supported the PS2 for a number of years afterwards. It's ridiculous that you would say that for the PS4. How about this? The reason why people, especially like myself, don't have a PS4 yet is because you don't have enough games, original IPs that say, wow, this is a standout, I need to get a PS4. Maybe if you focused on that instead of worrying about older games, because it seems like that's the thing to do these days in the previous PS3 era, and now the PS4, Xbox One era, you have to fall back on old games to make sure that you survive. That's ridiculous. Stop that. Come on, Sony. I understand you want to give people what they want from time to time, and you want to slide away about it before, because people were like, yo, when are we going to get our PS2 games and things of that nature? And you were like, well, you can use the backwards compatibility on the PS3, and then you cut the compatibility. It's like, we'll just put them on the PSN and make you rebuy everything that you already have. That's ridiculous. Come on, man. Stop. I want to move on, because that is just, Sony, you should be ashamed of yourselves. If that's what you have to do and start asking people what old games are arcade games, here's one for you. Radiant Silver Gun. Start with that, and then we'll talk. We'll move on. Alright? Halo Master Chief Collection. I said talk about patches, right? Halo Master Chief Collection patch beta has been canceled. That's right. Because the company is saying there's too many issues with the patch beta test. Too many issues with the patch beta test. Too many issues. People, this is what I'm talking about. Like, it's absolutely ridiculous. Gamers, I don't understand how gamers aren't upset. I see in the comment section, gamers are like, well, maybe this is a good thing, so when they finalize it, we can get a test. No, you should be mad at the fact that they can't even put out a beta test for it. You usually don't see beta tests when it comes to this, but you want to make sure that your consumer has all the right stuff so they don't complain. Because if you make something and you finalize it, and they say, hey, wait a minute, you missed this, and this, that's the reason why you're doing a beta test. That's the reason. But yet, for some odd reason, you decide you don't want to do that. You're just going to cancel it because it's too hard. It's too hard. Oh my God, there's too many issues. Too many issues with a patch. Okay, let's move on. I'm just saying, oh my God. Anyways, I want to talk about Asteroids. That's right, old school Asteroids. Well, now it's getting a reboot. And for those who don't know, Asteroids Reboot announced as a multiplayer survival horror game for the PC. That actually sounds pretty good. I'm actually interested to see what's going to happen with that. For real. And also, in more survival horror news, okay? For those who don't know, Kane Hodder, you know, the guy who plays Jason, or should I say up until a certain point, then they changed actors. Kane Hodder is joining the 80s slasher game Summer Camp. That's right. Now, once again, we're seeing all these slasher games come out of the woodwork. Now, for those who don't know, there's Summer Camp coming out, Friday the 13th coming out. There's, I believe there's one called Slasher Camp or something like that. And there's also Last Year coming out, which is, once again, 4 versus 1 multiplayer. We're seeing this more and more. People, understand what's going on here. Like I said, I'll put the link in the info bar so you can see, you know, all the games, survival horror games of this nature, slasher-wise, that are coming out. Seems like it's starting to snowball a little bit. Maybe if these games can produce some quality, we will see more of it down the line. But until then, I will put it like this. 4 against 1, we're going to see this more often now that they're hyping it up. Like I said, you can thank Evolve for that. You can, even though it's been done in the past, but it doesn't matter, right? The fact is, they're going to think this is something new, something exclusive. You know, same thing what they did with Titanfall. Did they not? We saw, big mechs. All of a sudden, everyone was, a fan of mechs. So it was like, come on. And you had Armored Core, you had Chrome Hounds, you had all these games to be fans of mechs. And what happened? You didn't give it to people, did you? No. Instead, you had to try and make it a Call of Duty type version with Titanfall. And then we saw Titanfall say, well, we're going to get rid of Titan so that you can play, man versus man or whatever. Like, it was just ridiculous. And I hope that this doesn't fall apart like Titanfall did when it comes to these 4 versus 1 games or these slasher games or even with Evolve. Look, I'm not a fan of Evolve due to the fact that the hype that's surrounding it and the stuff that you're reading today, because that's what made me say, you know what, I'm staying away from Evolve. I don't think that Evolve should be rewarded, I should say. They should be rewarded for the developers going and posing as consumers. Like, come on. And like I said, it's just been a bad week. I'll put it like this. I'm done with it. I don't need this, but I just want to say real quick, you're seeing everything. It seems like week after week you see more stupidity. It's something that you get a break from. It's the same. It's almost like the same thing over and over. And I understand that Anita Sarkeesian, Brianna Wu, and the usual suspects, they're going to do that because they need to stay relevant. I get that. But every time they do that, they make themselves look stupid, all right? And it shows what type of people they really are in this world. However, what more upsets me more is it's not them as much as, pushing as it is for people falling for it. And when I mean falling for, I'm talking about their supporters. Because like I said, you cannot support this type of hatred in our community. Especially when they say they're trying to get rid of this type of hatred. Then they do it themselves. It makes no sense. I will say this now. With gamers, you can't let it fall apart. And it seems like that's what we're seeing. Like I said, I understand that there's going to be people trolling. I understand there's going to be people like, yeah, people last week telling me I should be ashamed of myself because people were giving positive messages to Anita Sarkeesian. They're just trying to be nice. No. Common sense should tell you don't support people who try and exploit and trash you as a person. And the people who are saying this, you got to think, they don't think you exist either. Because the person who said it to me was black. They don't even consider you. You know what I mean? Like a person. Remember, you have to provide photo ID. So, whatever, man. This is what I'm talking about. It's absolutely ridiculous. I'm done. I'll say this. I will not be around that much today to answer comments or be on Twitter. I have an extra life meeting to go to. Was it tonight? So we're going to talk about more ways that we can raise money for the Children's Hospital of Philadelphia through gaming. I will keep you updated on that. I will talk to y'all later. Y'all be safe. You know what? I felt as though this video didn't accomplish shit. I'm out.